Hey, we're back with another episode of What's Tea with Tyra. So today's episode is called Who Do You Think You Are? And so we're in Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 and 5, and they read, Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Okay, so I think this is another pretty self-explanatory situation here. First off, clearly we need to pay attention to how we're moving, what we're doing, what we have going on before we can even think about speaking on somebody else's situation. And that's what Jesus is saying here. We need to be cognizant of what we got going on. What does our life look like? What area is God calling us to change in? What area is God calling us to stop doing what we may be doing? What do we need to clean up before we even think to look at somebody else's situation? And that's what Jesus is saying here. And I think this is important during a time right now because I feel like there's a lot of conversations happening about different pastors and just, children of Christ, Christians in general, of people so quick to say what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong. No matter what they got going on. And I've seen some things. I'm sure we all have seen some things happening right now. But the word says, touch not my anointed, do my servants no harm. I'm not going to speak on God's anointed. We don't know if these people are having a bad day or they have a bad heart. PD has preached on that. Judas had a bad heart. Peter had a bad day. There is a difference. And so when we see people, going through what they may be going through, it is not for us to be speaking on some of that stuff, especially when we got planks in our eyes. So that's why I felt it was important to talk about this today, because we really need to focus on ourselves before we start looking at anybody else. Also, once you actually took the time to take the plank out of your own eye and you can see clearly and speak on the speck in your brother's eye, make sure you're coming from a place of love and not from condemnation. When Jesus corrected anybody, he came from a place of love. He didn't, say, you call yourself a pastor, but you doing this. You call yourself a this, but you acting like that. Or you supposed to be a Christian. I thought you spoke. That is not coming from a place of love. And so we need to make sure after we've taken the plank out of our own eye that we are moving with love and not with condemnation. When Jesus, came through for the adulterous woman, when the men went to stone her to death, what did Jesus say? He who was without sin cast the first stone. And what did they do? Nothing. They ain't pick up no rock. They couldn't do anything because they knew that there was sin that was taking place in their lives that was not visible to everybody else, but they knew they were sinning. So they didn't stone anybody. And what did Jesus say to that woman? Go now. Leave your life of sin. That's it. No condemnation. No, you should be ashamed of yourself. No, all of this and all of that. No, Jesus didn't come with none of that energy. And he's not calling us to come that way either. So once you take the time to take the plank out of your own eye and you can see, make sure you're coming from love and not from condemnation. And that's what's tea for today. So as always, be grateful, thankful, humble, and blessed. And I will see you guys next time.